Do you think my posture's really bad? Do you ever think about it?
No.
I think about it all the time.
Really?
I'm like a turtle with a shell.
No, I notice my nose in profile because it takes up about half the screen.
Do you? I don't notice. I only notice the fact that I'm like this.
Hello, and welcome to Burning Boat Business, the podcast where we discuss the progress, success, and failures of our company, Burning Boat, as well as ourselves. How's it going?
Going well.
Good?
Normally we don't record first thing in the morning.
No, it's kind of nice.
It's good getting it out of the way.
I feel fresh.
Yeah, we're
I'm a
not
little
getting out of the
hungry.
way. It's not that I want to get it out of the way. It's more of like a, yeah.
We just have a lot to do today.
It's not at the end of the day
No,
where you're like, ugh.
today's going to be a rough day.
Yeah, today's a long day.
Yeah. We have a job at 7 in...
A different city.
It's the same city we mentioned last time.
Yeah, if it's still raining, I don't know about biking. I was totally down to bike.
Right.
Let's just
I
have a
need
look.
a raincoat. I just found out
I don't
my
have
raincoat
anything.
is not waterproof.
I'm not shooting for 3 hours completely soaked.
No, what we need, I was thinking this morning, I need some waterproof pants, and I need some sort of waterproof. I have that winter jacket, but it's way too warm. It's still
It's a
like
bit big, yeah.
It's like 17 degrees outside. It's not cold.
It's not cold.
It's just wet.
Yet.
Okay, enough of that. Let's talk about last podcast. It was a little short, and I'm not gonna lie, I cut out quite a bit.
I haven't listened to it.
Okay.
So I don't know what you
I don't
cut
ever
out.
listen to them, but well, you were there when we kind of discussed.
I know what went down.
Right. So let me just recap, or would you like to recap?
No, because I'm not sure about what
Okay.
what specifically you cut out.
I cut out. So the thing is with these podcasts is that we have always said we want to be as transparent as possible.
Yes.
And I think that as possible is the very important.
Yeah, it's not like reveal everything.
No, exactly. So what had happened is that in last week's podcast, we had kind of started talking about one of the companies we're working with, and we realized afterwards we were kind of giving the company a point of view or saying certain things about the company or certain things that we had discussed in the meeting before we've even secured a contract with this company, before we've even made anything for this company. And I think the question kind of came up is like, if we have a meeting with the company, isn't that confidential? And I don't think it's our right to just throw out to the public everything this company has kind of said about its marketing strategy or how it wants itself to be seen or whatever, you know?
Especially considering the fact they haven't released whatever it is they're talking about.
Right.
Releasing.
Exactly.
So wait, are we about to talk about it? Because they still haven't done that.
No.
Okay, good.
No, I don't think we need to talk about it.
Right.
I
No,
think
it's not like a big secret thing. It's just like
No.
it's not our place to.
Exactly. If you're wondering why it was so cut up, it's because of that. And we feel that we can still talk about it. It should just be in hindsight when we
Sure.
finished a job,
Yeah.
when we're very clear on how the company is portraying itself, and we don't feel like
We're speaking for them,
exactly.
regardless of what it is. I agree.
Exactly. Okay, cool. Let's give a quick update on the business because we've got some new jobs.
Oh yeah.
Well, we've got the job tonight.
Yeah.
What is that?
Well, okay, so it's a job working for the same guy that we worked for the Gentank video, which was the video about technology and the future of technology.
Mm-hmm.
And he asked us to work on another video for another, not an event, but another project that he's working on. Well, he works for the government, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
And so he works for a specific, what do you call it?
Municipality.
Municipality. kommune in Danish, the Gentofte Kommune, which is, he works with the young people there.
Right.
And apparently the way that they make policies in Gentofte is by involving whoever is going to be affected by the policy.
Right.
So if someone wants to propose a new policy, they may, like, for example, about handicapped people.
Right.
There's going to be handicapped people involved in making that policy.
Exactly.
Like people from the public.
Exactly.
Basically, they are making a new policy, or they're proposing a new policy about student housing, I believe. And they want to present this policy to Parliament using a video. And they want us to document how they arrive at what they think the best policy should be. And we're making that video. So we have to...
Because apparently this is, well, at least he was saying it's quite radical to bring in the people that you're creating these policies for.
I mean, I know very little about that kind
Me
of
too.
stuff. So you could have told me that that's totally normal. I'd been like, awesome.
Same.
But he made it sound like it was something that was special
Yeah.
about what they're doing.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of interesting, kind of exciting to be working on.
We'll see how it goes.
We're going to kind of just document the meetings that they have.
I think there's three
meetings.
meetings.
We just kind of have to be there and see if there's some kind of story we can get out of it. So it's more of like a short documentary that we're making. And that video that we make will be the product that they bring to Parliament and show.
Right. Which is exciting.
Yeah, that sounds
And
cool.
definitely got to slip in burning boats somewhere in the video.
Yeah.
A little sneaky.
I don't think he noticed that we put that in there the last
I think
time.
he did.
Maybe?
It's
Yeah.
hard to miss. It's pretty, I think it's good because we made it so blatant. It wasn't like a...
See, now I'm wondering, because he saw everything, it felt like.
Right.
You know, it felt like he watched the video many times and had
This is
good
the
feedback.
This is the Gin Tank video.
Yeah.
And I have that on here actually, is the note, you know, where that was the first time we've kind of gotten notes from somebody.
Yeah, so we made the video, sent it off. We're like, this is an awesome video.
Right.
He's gonna love it. And he sends back a very straightforward text saying, "Great video. Here are the changes we need to make to
Right.
it." And had like a list of things, which were all valid points, but
Right.
it's just like the first time that we received a significant amount of feedback that needed, like things that needed to be moved around
Right.
and stuff. So that was interesting. I mean,
It was an
thinking about
interesting transition of going to like, from like, fuck this, we're not doing this, to like, oh, he's completely right. With most of the things.
Yeah. I don't know why that was.
I mean, I pretty much felt all right about it the whole time, but I've dealt with that before in LA. Which is definitely, it is a frustrating process, but only if the notes are kind of irrelevant. 'Cause
Yeah.
sometimes people will give notes just to kind of
Yeah.
show that their job has importance or they want to put their voice in it. But on the other hand, there are notes that are genuinely good, you know? And as soon
Right.
as he said the thing about the robot, for example, we originally had the robot at the beginning of the video.
Yeah.
As soon as he said that, it kind of clicked in my head. And I was like, you know, I think he's right. Like the pacing is kind of strange.
It
there.
didn't to me. I thought that was just like an annoying thing where I was like, that's one of my favorite parts.
Yeah.
I think you're wrong. And I
Right.
even told him that.
Right.
I was like, sorry, I really disagree, and I would encourage you to keep the robot.
Right.
But then we worked out that actually he was right in that it felt off.
The pacing
but that he
was-
was wrong in trying to remove it. And we
Yeah.
had to just place it somewhere else.
Exactly.
So we came to that conclusion, which was very satisfying.
Yeah. And so we've kind of finished those two videos now,
Yeah.
which
I
are
think
our first videos on record, done.
sent yesterday.
We still got to figure out the payment, how all that's going to work.
Right.
But that's satisfying. And I don't know. I just recently this week, I've really been thinking back to, I don't know when exactly I arrived. I think like June 20th or something. I was trying to figure that out. 18th. How satisfying is that?
Yeah.
That we're here now and our problem is not enough time because of
How much we're working.
right. Which is
Paid
this whole
work.
idea of
paid, not free work anymore.
yeah. And that
Paid
whole
jobs.
from the
It's a good problem to have.
subtle art of not giving a fuck as much as, you know,
Yeah.
it's an okay book. You don't have to read it. But one point that I did really like is that rather than trying to achieve no problems in life, it's more about having
Better problems.
trying to have problems. Yeah, trying to have better problems.
Improve the problems. You cannot be problem free.
Problems that you want, basically, or want to solve. So that's very satisfying.
I think it's also a weird progression where I feel like we got paid the day that we like made a deal.
Yeah.
But obviously that's not true. So it's like, yeah, we finished it, but I already feel like we got that when we left the meeting, and he was like, yep, let's do it.
Right.
But then it was like, now we've actually filmed it. Like, we filmed our first job, and then it was like, now we've actually edited it, and now we've handed in the final thing.
Final draft.
We still haven't been paid yet, so once that money's in the account, it'll be like, we finally got paid.
Right.
So there's like these many tick marks to make, I guess, that it kind of sinks in slowly. So I think it's important to remember that it is very satisfying.
Yes.
Be conscious of that.
100%. And one thing we have been trying to figure out is this whole, I don't even know if I should talk about it. I mean, the whole tax thing, basically. So we're charging people a certain amount, and there's a whole question of, do you charge the amount including taxes? I mean, we've already discussed this now with a different company. But specifically with the Gintech video, for example, that was never discussed.
Right.
So the question is it assumed in Denmark that a price has tax already calculated into it, or is it assumed that the price negotiated is the price you're going to get paid, and then you'll also get paid, obviously, an extra 40% or whatever for taxes?
I would just assume that if it's not discussed,
That's what I think too.
it's included,
Yes.
right? So
Right.
if you specify, by the way, this is not including tax
Right.
before you make the agreement, then obviously it's not. But if you just don't talk about it, it's included. Just kind of on a...
That's what I would assume as well. It was only when you brought it up, I was like, well, maybe it's a Danish thing that people just, someone works on your house, you agree it's going to be 5,000 kroner, and then they send you a bill for 7,000 kroner or whatever. And that's just how things are done. I have no idea. My intuition would be if you say 5,000, you're going to get paid 5,000. Yeah.
We have a business course tomorrow. We've got a list of questions.
We should actually write down a bunch of questions. I'm very excited. Feels a little bit like going back to school.
Oh, we're totally going to just be the ones with our hands up the whole time.
Sit in the front.
Dominate the whole meeting.
Yes.
No one else is going to get to ask
Shut up. We have more questions.
Burning Boat wants to know.
Yeah.
I mean, I want to know if... But yeah, those are important things to figure out. But, I mean, what could we have done? I guess we could have just taken those courses earlier, talked to people who know what's going on. I think we're learning as we're going.
To keep people updated. Maybe if anybody has any advice, leave in the comments. I don't know.
Yeah.
Okay. So going off of this, sorry, go ahead.
Taxes are very expensive here.
They're very expensive. They're very high.
We still don't know what they are.
I think they're 40%.
Yeah, I think we know that, but I think there is you progress up to that. I don't think you start at that.
Really?
I think there are different tiers of taxes that you kind of
that's
graduate from.
It would be in America, yeah.
It's all stuff we'll figure out.
Figure it out soon enough. But the point is, we should. I guess this is all the questions we have tomorrow. The thing is, we don't want to make the money, right? Reinvest it into the company or whatever, and then at the end of the year, be like, oh fuck, we owe way more than we thought.
Yeah.
But then there's this whole weird thing that's probably, if we do make money and invest it straight back into the company, I'm sure that's taxed less than paying us salaries.
Yeah, so if we got a new camera because we need two cameras. Which we're talking about,
should probably come from a Burning Boat bank account or somehow figure that out before we buy that with our own money.
As soon as we've gone to the business course tomorrow and the one next week, assuming that our questions are answered and we're clear on what we need to do.
Right.
We're going to register the business, get our CVR number, which means that I can then, saying I, because you still don't have your CPR number.
But I'm going to get the CPR number.
Before we register.
Yes.
So then either of us can open a bank account, a Burning Boat bank account.
Joint bank account.
And then we can start getting paid in there, and then that account can pay each of us separately.
Exactly.
I feel like a couple of weeks and that should be...
Well, we should have a podcast that's the real Burning Boat business. Because the thing is...
I don't know what he means.
As in, like, this is what we learned. This is how you start a company in Denmark.
Ooh.
I think that'd be interesting. Because if there was one out there,
I would learning quick.
Definitely listen to it.
Actually, I don't know about quick. We're definitely learning.
It's just little things.
Yeah, it's true.
Like the whole, how many shares does your company have at what, price? I don't fucking know. 1 million at a half a cent? Can we do that? I have no idea.
It means nothing to me.
All right, so look forward to that. That'll be coming out hopefully in 2 to 3 weeks then.
Yeah, I feel like
that'll be a good one.
This week has, or at least for me, I've been very focused on the numbers. Like, how much do we need to make? I feel like it's, now that we've made a little bit.
Right.
We don't actually have it yet, but we have made videos and we know we're going to get paid, soon. How far will that get us? How much more do we need to make? What's a realistic kind of, what does the future look like realistically?
Right.
It's suddenly a lot easier to kind of try and do something like a business plan. That might be interesting to do.
That would be interesting.
I feel like now we know kind of what our price point is and how we can, where we are a little bit, that we can try and figure out, well, we could do this many jobs a month at this kind of price, and then that means we'll have this amount of profit. We could reinvest this percentage of it, and by this many months in the future, we should be able to have an office. You know what I mean?
That would be interesting.
Like, obviously, it's
hard to tell, I think.
That a business plan isn't something that is, written in stone. It's an idea, or at least a goal.
Exactly.
But what I was going to say is I calculated my actual expenses, how much, and again, it's hard because I'm really kind of 2 people.
Divided by 2.
Plus a dog.
Right.
But also, like, obviously Phoebe gets paid as well.
Right.
We don't have like a clear system of who pays for what. It's kind of like the way we do it, I guess, a little bit. It's like, you get this, I'll get this.
Yes.
So it's kind of hard to measure. So
which, by the way, is my favorite way to do things.
I kind of like it too, because it keeps things, I think it's all right.
I
never
think
quite know.
Ultimately everything
And it saves
equals itself out.
You don't feel like you're,
Wait,
Yeah.
does he,
Yeah, it's just
does
like...
he owe me a little bit, or does I think he owes me like a two kroner for that sandwich I bought him.
It's such a waste of mental space.
Exactly. I
think.
agree. So, like, risking that one of us owes the other like 200 kroner or something at the end of the year is totally worth it.
100%. And I think that's something I really respected from one of my ex-girlfriends, was that she was the type of person that you would go to get coffee with, even like before we started dating. Mm-hmm. And she would just buy you a coffee.
Yeah.
Just out of nowhere. And it was just like these little acts where, like, it is just fucking faster for one person to get 2 coffees. Do you know what I mean? In certain situations. And then it's like you get in this routine with people, and then you'll buy the next 2 coffees. And
you can remember.
Life becomes so much easier than this whole, like, oh, I bought you a coffee last week, so now you owe me. You can buy me a granola. It's like, no, it'll just even itself out at some point. 100%.
But it does take 2 people to do it.
You have to be conscious.
Yeah. You can't, like, the worst thing would be if, one of us just wasn't able to stick to that and didn't kind of pay attention to and
yeah, but I think we're
just
both
to be the other person is always the one doing it.
Unspoken, like, maybe somebody buys something once and it's a little bit more unspoken. I've noticed it just happens, and the other person starts to buy a little more things, and then it starts to turn around. It's
great. I love it.
It works.
Anyways, my point was that I calculated all
Right.
of what I spend, and then I calculated the jobs we have lined up currently.
Right.
So everything that we have actually agreed, either jobs we've already worked and we've delivered the video,
Yes.
or jobs that we've agreed to work and for this price, calculated.
Right. We're only talking things that are guaranteed.
Yeah,
now.
we have plenty of
We've
other
been talking
leads.
on a lot of hypotheticals, but a lot of things have kind of solidified in the last week of like, for sure, we have gotten the contract basically.
Yeah, we have a contract here, we have a contract here, and we've just finished this video.
Right.
Calculating that,
Yes.
and then also taking into consideration when we would get paid for those jobs. So
Yes.
like the one that we started this podcast talking about won't actually be done until November.
Right.
But it's not like it's a job that takes us 2 months to do.
No.
It's just that that's when they need the video, and that a meeting is taking place in November, so it can't be done until then.
Makes sense.
Taking that into consideration was calculating all those jobs added up, divided by like 2.5 months to get us to November, which would be the last time we'd get paid for those jobs,
Right.
equaled more than I would spend in 2.5 months
Right.
by like €5. One of the most satisfying calculations I've made.
That's very nice.
So with just what we have right now, I am essentially set for the next 2.5 months.
Nice.
And we will get more.
Of course.
There's so much more that just will work out.
Yes.
And that's not like wishful thinking. That's just purely going off of how it's gone so far.
Right. I think there really is something to... You can email people as much as you fucking want. All you need is that one person to tell another person, like, oh, I know these two guys who do good videos.
Yeah.
That's what gets you the jobs.
Exactly.
You know?
It's the word of mouth.
Although Souls...
Once that Gentank video gets released,
yeah, I think it's...
there's the chances that one of the 2,000 people who are going to see it are going to be like, that's a great video. Who made it?
Right.
It's just, I think that's
same
how it
with the
works.
music bunker,
That's how
same
it
with
works.
everything, right? Okay.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that.
Okay. So off of this now idea of having the right kind of problems, having a lot of work, I also feel like we've kind of figured out a good work/relaxation balance. We haven't been pulling crazy hours,
Yes,
right?
it's great.
But you had mentioned that you did want to discuss kind of just hours in general.
Yeah, I think I want to just take it even further and be
Okay.
even more specific. In no way cutting down, but just in establishing a fixed default schedule
Okay.
that we could always fall back to and assume is going to happen unless something
Right.
comes up.
Right.
So like obviously we're working tonight.
Yes.
That doesn't mean that we're going to take off time today to, you know, make up for the fact that we're going to be working later. That just means we're going to be working more this week.
Yeah.
But what I wanted was to be able to plan around a schedule that I will assume is going to happen. Like if, for example, we say something like Sundays we take off,
Yeah.
I'll know that. And I can plan things that I want to do for
Right.
Sundays to happen.
Right.
Unless, you know, something comes up and we have to work on that day, which
Right.
is absolutely fine. But I think I've found that we've kind of assumed that unless we say, let's take a day off,
Yeah.
we are working. And
Yes.
that has left those days that we then take off last minute as kind of these, they're not planned days, and I'm not making the most out of the time that I have off, if
I
that
agree.
makes sense.
Yes.
So if we know that we work from this time to this time, always,
Yeah. Speak more specifically.
Okay. So I made a mock schedule.
All right.
Just because I think it's easier to start from something. Something like writing down Monday through Sunday. Mondays work from 9 to 5.
Okay.
Tuesdays work from 9 to 6. Wednesdays 9 to 6. Thursdays 9 to 6. Fridays 9 to 4. Because then we can go climbing on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays.
This is the earlier days.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then Saturdays work from 12 to 5.
12 to 5.
And Sundays are completely off. So before we get into, specifics, the idea would be that we have, I guess what you would call a normal work week where we both know that we're going to finish at 5 because we're going to go climbing.
Right.
So we don't have to wait, climbing today?
Right.
Wait, when are we going to climb?
Right.
Do we have time to climb?
Yes.
We know that we finish at 5 to go climbing. And I feel like the days when we have had we need to go climbing today because the next 5 days are booked up.
Yeah.
I work faster and I get things done more quickly.
Yeah.
So I find, and I've heard this so many places and I think it's true, that work expands to the time you allocate to it to a degree.
Yeah.
So if you have a job and you have 3 months to edit it, it's going to take fucking 3 months to edit.
Yeah.
But if you have 3 days, you're going to figure out a way to do it in 3 days.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think there's something to be said about restricting time a little bit so that there isn't time wasted figuring out when are we going to get things done.
Yes.
And also just to make things easier so that it's not something we have to constantly talk about. When are we working today?
Yes.
When are we climbing tomorrow? It's just always fixed. But that doesn't mean obviously with anything.
I'm hesitant. I mean, I think it's a good idea. I think this is good specifically for this situation.
Exactly.
If we had an office, I would be like, fuck that. I'm going to come in whenever I want. But I completely understand for the sake of Phoebe, which by the way, she has been amazing. I feel like I didn't say that on the podcast where she was on. How ridiculous to have an office in your apartment where two guys are constantly working and constantly in your space. I mean, I appreciate it so much, Phoebe, and I think for that sake, this is a very good idea because I think for her ease of mind, then she kind of knows too. What's going on?
You know what? It's honestly also for me.
Okay.
And I want to be able to. It annoys me when I feel like I'm not making the most out of my time.
Right.
And that I need something like this to be more productive.
Okay.
So that I can then work on my script at certain times as well.
Exactly.
And and I think obviously it is a unique situation and that is also why something like this would be useful. But even if we had an office, I would still be interested in personally doing something like this for myself.
Right.
Having a more calculated schedule.
It's interesting because I'm very different, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But we're also in totally different situations.
Yeah,
like
yeah,
you said.
of course. I think that's, yeah. So I mean, let's just do it. I think that works. And like we said, I mean, obviously, I think that would be a perfect week. Of course, there's going to be if there's work.
It would be a perfect
we have to
week.
get it
but
done.
the I feel like knowing that we've agreed that Saturdays are shorter work days where we only work 5 hours from 12 to 5.
Right.
Will just make us think about the week differently, and we have to fit in more on these days, obviously.
I think that's what I like too, and that's what works for me as well. Is that if I know I'm going to work on the feature film Saturday, it gives me the opportunity now, since I don't live that far away anymore. It's I can bring my computer home now.
Yeah.
I can do my feature film shit. Because I think that's the main thing that's still difficult for me and why I want the office so badly.
Yeah.
Is I get motivated at times and it's I just can't hang out at your guys' house for 14 hours.
And that's true. You can't.
No.
And so when I get the urge to write on my script on Sunday evening, I can do that because I'm here.
Right.
But you can't because you need your computer.
Right. But something like this, like you said, then you could plan for it. Exactly.
And avoid that.
Exactly.
So I think there's a lot of useful things to it. And then I said 9 because I feel like we've been starting 10, 10:30, sometimes 11, and getting into that habit of we've worked late or climbed late.
Right.
Start a bit later.
Right.
We don't need to do that.
But I thrive. I thrive at 11. That is my peak productive time.
Because
but
you get up at a certain time, right?
No. because I did the whole is it Tim Urban or Tim Ferriss? I don't know. Somebody who you create a schedule and every hour you say kind of how much work you got done, how productive you think you were.
That's the productivity project.
Yeah, that podcast, the audiobook. I'm sure it's a book as well.
Well, obviously.
Yeah. I don't know. Do people just do audio? No, obviously not.
Maybe.
I did that and I found that, 11 really is my like, I want to say I would get like creatively 40-50% of my work done.
I would agree.
Yeah. But I don't know if waking up at 6, for example, that would shift. I mean, maybe it would. But like, it's the same now as it was when I was working in LA. And in LA, I woke up much earlier. Obviously, I had to.
So wait, explain that. When you worked in LA, it was
Right.
also 11, regardless of the fact that you woke up earlier. It was still always at that time.
Right.
It wasn't like this many hours after you woke up.
No.
I mean, it could still
But I
be
might just be bullshitting now, honestly. I might just be stuck on this.
Yeah. Well, I think so. Because it's like, obviously, if suddenly now your 11 to 2 o'clock time is now going to be taken up by something, some mundane task that you have to do, you'd figure out a way to be productive before it or after it.
Yeah.
But I get that, like, everyone has their own productivity time.
Yeah. Anyways, 9 is fine.
And it's only 9 because that's when, like, every day, because Phoebe goes to work, I'm up at the same time every day, and I sit down in the office at like 8:45 every single day.
Gotcha.
So it just makes sense that that's when I start.
Do your thing, and then I'll roll in probably like 9:30, like I usually
do.
Well, it's just my roommate leaves the house at like 8:40,
Uh-huh.
so that's kind of when I get the place to myself. I can shower and
I see.
do all that stuff.
Yeah.
We kind of have our own routine going on.
Cool. But what do you think of doing Monday, Wednesday, Friday climbing? Again,
I think
as
it's a great
defaults.
idea. Yeah, it's so hard because it's like, in theory, that's great.
Right.
Yeah. So of course I'm not gonna.
But the alternative is this kind of like random when we have time. Okay,
no,
let's
I don't think
plan
it's. I agree that this is better.
Yeah.
Let's go with that.
Okay. But like elaborate a little bit, because I think it's an interesting discussion. It feels like you're apprehensive to the idea of scheduling to this degree of specificity, because it's like then you're constrained. But to me, it's the exact opposite. Is by making constraints, you're free to make the most of the time, and it's not about the time. It's just about having planned for it mentally.
I agree.
It's like, even if we say we're finishing at 5 on Mondays to go climbing because we want a longer climbing session.
Right.
Like, the chances of us finishing at 5 are very small, but it's like just knowing that, we only have half an hour left. I got to just kind of focus real quick and finish this thing is going to make me take maybe an hour instead of 2 hours to finish it.
Yeah, but that's so I agree with that. But I just work personally. I work best when I'm motivated, and those periods of motivation in my life are sporadic.
But do you really not think that there's something
because
that
I think
creates motivation?
No, I think
you feel like it's just a random thing that comes and goes and you don't control it.
Creatively, yes. I think motivation you can build over time, but like the YouTube things, for example, we got our best work done not in the span where we were like, oh fuck, we have this much time left, we need to finish this. I would actually say that's when our most like that's when your expectations, your sort of
judgment,
your acceptance of what is good kind of goes way down, and you're like, we just need to finish this needs to go out, accept that this is the final product, and boom. My best work comes from when you're not even thinking about the deadline and you have this like, you're not stressing at all.
Right,
which
but
would
we-
be the day before.
But we
and
do
that's-
we do have deadlines.
Yeah, of
and we
course.
do have, and I think
But I don't agree with the idea that like
I think those are two very different things. I think that motivation is definitely something that, whether it's subconscious or conscious, it comes from you and the way that you're thinking. And that can feel like it can come at random times, but really it's down to a very scientific process.
okay. I don't know. What do you want me to say about that?
Well,
Personally, I think like discipline,
Mm-hmm.
for example, if I'm writing a script, there's a higher chance that I'm going to get motivated while I'm doing it if I do it every day for 2 hours at the same time. I understand that. But the thing I don't like, and the thing that hasn't worked for me with some of our like habits or these challenges where you have to do something every day for, I've just noticed that doesn't really work for me, because there might be a day where I want to read for 4 hours and I get the most out of it, as opposed to saying I'm going to read every day for an hour, and 2 of the days I don't really feel like it, so I'm just kind of reading, like, getting through it, right? And 2 of the days I am enjoying it, and I might want to read more, and then I do end up reading more, or I don't, because I think like, oh, well, my hour's up, whatever. I just like this more.
Yeah,
I just
but
think it's
I
more
feel
productive
like,
to
I feel like
listen
we
to
can
yourself.
we can still do that.
I agree. I'm not shitting on the
No, I
schedule
know
per
you're
se,
not.
but
I just want to like
I'm just saying where my
talk it through
right,
so that we both are on the same page.
right,
I know you're not saying you don't want to do this. I get it.
yeah,
But I think there's also a big difference between writing a script and cutting together the music bunker video we're working on right now, which to me is very much just like, all right, put some blinders on and just get it done. It's not the most like creative thing. It feels like I just need to focus on it really and stop talking to you.
right.
And that something like a time limit would help me.
Yeah.
Do you never get that feeling that like, oh, let me just, I just need to focus now, and you like force yourself into a state of flow for like the next 30 minutes or something? Or does it all kind of only come
I've
when
never
there's no time?
when you
Or when there's-
sometimes I think like I'm just not aware of it. I just float through. I've like, and it's not just you. I've noticed a lot of people are very observant and aware of like how they work, how certain things work for them. I'm very unaware. I'm very like,
Maybe
it all feels
maybe
very
you should- maybe
random
you
to
should-
me.
Yeah, but I don't think it is. That's the thing. I think
Right.
maybe it's just a lack of having looked at it. But you say that you've done like a hour by hour. When am I most productive?
Yeah.
Like do more of that. Figure it out.
why? I'm fine with it though.
I think
I don't
I
feel
think
like I have
there's
any
some-
problems with.
I don't think it's about having problems. I think it's like, what if like you could get even more done? And there's like learning something about yourself would, I don't think, be a bad thing.
But I think what I'm saying is I've tried this thing of
Mm-hmm.
hyper discipline, right?
I just don't think it's discipline. That's not what I'm talking about.
Are you talking about like forcing yourself to?
Forcing is the wrong word. It's not like if I don't get it done within the hour, something bad happens. It's just the fact that we set a time is going to make me just focus in a little bit more. It's not like I gotta do it now.
No, I agree. If you say like, okay, we're gonna finish this by 4,
Yeah.
is that what you're saying? And then we work until 4
Yeah.
with the idea that you're gonna finish it.
Yeah. It's different than it'll be done when it's done.
Yeah, but
think
that's not
then
what
you-
I'm saying either.
Then you start to make some decisions a little bit quicker. And I think sometimes it makes me just a little more confident. I'm like, I don't have time to consider if this is the exact perfect take out of these 5 different bits that I've pulled from the footage. I'm going to go with this one because it works.
Right.
For what we're not working on features. Well, I'm talking about like our day-to-day work.
Okay.
You know, there is a distinction between that and like editing our feature-length films, where I think
Yeah. Of course.
Right.
Yeah. I think that's a tough one. I think that's a tough one too. And I think we are different. We work differently.
For sure. We definitely work differently.
Yeah.
I think we can
And
both
in
work
some ways,
to our.
I think that's what works about us, is that you are more focused on finishing a product and carrying it through, and I'm a little bit more out there, I would say, in terms of like strictly when things are going to get done. But I think that's a nice pairing of editors, because you have one guy who's focusing a little bit more on like, well, what if we just tried this weird thing? And another guy who's also reeling it in and making sure that stuff actually gets done. So you get this nice blend of like.
Do you feel like that's what we do? Do you feel like I'm the one who keeps things on track?
And I wouldn't boil it down so simply.
Right.
But I think.
Because in the end, my priority is still that the product is of quality.
Right.
I'd rather be a week late than it not be good.
Yeah.
Obviously.
Yeah.
But I feel like stuff is better when.
You set a deadline, of course.
Yeah.
I agree with that too. I just I don't do it on a miniature scale, I guess. Because I'll always get shit done. But I like to say, okay, we need to finish this by next Friday, and it needs to get done. Mm-hmm. Rather than, we need to finish this today, we need to finish this by tomorrow, we need to finish this by Wednesday. That, I can work with that, but I don't thrive necessarily. And my whole point is because on Monday, I might not feel super motivated about the project, whatever. I might get some stuff done, and then I might go home and have an early day. On Tuesday, I might want to work until 1 a.m, because I've come up with something interesting. By Wednesday, I'm piecing it all together. By Thursday, I'm doing the second draft. And by Friday, it's done.
But I'm exactly the same.
Right.
But I like to set the daily tasks as something to strive. I don't think I've ever finished a list of daily tasks in my life, ever. It's never gone the way I thought it would go.
Okay.
But by writing it, it goes better than if I had just left it all to the end of the week. So maybe it's a lack of being able to think about that many things. If the only thing I thought about was what needs to get done by the end of the week, I feel like I would struggle to make the most out of each individual day. Whereas if I focus on what do I want to try and finish today, I get more done. Doesn't mean I finish those things by that day.
Yeah.
Just means that I'm just more focused because it's more like immediate.
Yeah.
But it's exactly the same. It's like I'm just not like yesterday we had like we're supposed to record. I say we're supposed to record. I wanted to have done the podcast and finished the video we're working on now.
Yeah.
But we didn't because we didn't get there.
Yeah.
But I feel like writing it down at least made me get further with the video than had I not written it down, because I would have been like, but that's not due until next week. And I would have just spent an unnecessary amount of time on certain things.
Okay.
But I feel like this is a very interesting conversation because it is, I think everyone works slightly differently, but I think understanding the reasons behind it is very useful.
I get that. But I also feel like I have my own reasons. I understand that your reasons might be backed by science and whatnot, but I think just from what I've noticed for myself, I think that's just the way I work, and that's how I work best. That's how I get my best work.
Do you feel like you could still work like that with something like this?
With something like what?
Like a schedule like this with work hours.
Of course.
And I'm not asking like that. I'm just.
I think it's
Again, remember the situation. That is still why this
that's
is the thing.
well, that's what I'm saying.
Otherwise, there's an office that's open
That's what I'm saying.
24/7.
Then we wouldn't even be having this conversation.
No.
So if the discussion is about, well, how do you work best? I think we can argue about that and debate about it. That's great.
Mm-hmm.
If the question is what works best here,
Right.
it's a little bit outside of my what's fair. It's just out of my control. This is your guys' apartment, right?
But let's. I agree.
But it is.
It is.
It would
I
be
agree.
insane for me to be like, knock on the door at 1 a.m. when I feel like I want to do something and be like, hey, I just decided to stop by real quick and do some snaps because I'm excited about my film.
No, I know.
Right. Which is something I would do in an office.
Right.
I would show up at 1 a.m. I would probably sleep under my desk a couple of nights. That's something that wouldn't be totally foreign to me because I like doing that. I find motivation and inspiration at weird times.
And same.
Right.
And I do that too. It's
Right.
like I'm gonna go and work on my stuff for a little bit now.
Right. So I feel a little
I sneak
bit
off and I do that.
when it comes to this. I understand where you're coming from, and I
We're-
feel like you just got to put your foot down a
we're
little and be
tot-
like, "This is what we need to do," as opposed
Sure,
to like,
sure.
it's not,
I mean,
it's not that
obviously
much
we
in
could
my.
say it like that, but I would argue that this is the best thing to do also for that kind of thing, because then you can exactly kind of, at least sometimes.
But we can disagree on that.
No. At least sometimes you can prep in advance and think, well, maybe I'll get inspiration this weekend. At least I'll have my computer on me so that I can do that. And if it doesn't happen, I'll just bring it back on Monday.
Yeah.
But if I bring it back Saturday afternoon, if that's what you want to do, that wasn't what I was thinking when I said that.
No, but that's I think what's
You know what I
interesting.
mean, though? At least there's that then. Whereas
yeah.
otherwise, that's just not going to happen at all.
Here's an interesting question.
Mm-hmm.
We own a business. We have 10 employees. How do you tell them they need to work? Because my inclination would be, I tell you when it's due. Come in whenever the fuck you want. If you don't get it done, you're fired.
Well, I'd add a step in between, but yeah, I'd say definitely it's about what you deliver and not on how you do it.
Right.
I would argue, though, that I'd be interested to see experimentation with, could you do even more? Like, I'd want to see people at their full potential. So if they're like, oh, but I got it done and I only worked 1 day of the week because I'm just that much better than everyone, I'd be like,
That'd be
you
great.
do more. You could do more than that then. Like, do more. I'd give them more to do.
Would you pay them more?
Yeah.
Okay.
Obviously. They'd be way more valuable. I think it's about, I'm interested in the product that gets delivered
Right.
being the best it can be, but also the people working on it being the best they can be at that.
I agree.
So
but
if
in
they
many
figured
ways,
out-
I think that this whole, what we were talking about, this
Yeah.
work-life balance, whatever.
Yeah.
I think by empowering people, by letting them create their own schedules,
For sure.
right?
Yeah.
Allows them to be their full potential because their best potential might be coming home and hanging out with the kids after work,
Exactly.
which to someone else might be like,
That's
the hell are
waste
you
of
doing?
time.
You only worked 1 day a week, but they prioritize that day. That's when they work. They got all their shit done. More power to them to then spend time with their family and do whatever they want.
Yeah. No, there's obviously a limit to
Right.
like,
I mean, 1 day
that's
would
what I
be
meant by
ridiculous, yeah, but-
experimentation. I feel like if you've like cracked a code and have figured out how to edit what it takes everyone 4 hours to do in an hour,
Right.
like what more can be done? Like, let's build on that. Let's not just be like, great.
Yeah, okay.
But I think there is a weird fixation on hours in like normal
Right.
work life. It's about how many hours you've worked. Stamping in, stamping out. I think that's bullshit.
Right.
You should be able to.
But obviously, you need
Figure
to.
out your
I'm
own
not also
schedule.
saying like schedules are stupid. Because if you're on a project with 4 or 5 people,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, you need a fucking schedule. Otherwise, you're gonna have the graphics guy who's like, "Well, I'm gonna get it done whenever it gets done." Like, no.
Yeah, I guess that's a whole nother point. We are
Right.
only 2 people, so it's a little easier.
It's a little more flexible. But
Yeah.
I'm happy to experiment, and I think this is a good solution. As an outline, and that we assume Sundays are free. I totally understand that.
Yeah, because obviously, I think we're both very clear on wanting to, if there's work that needs to get done, it's going to get done. I don't think either of us don't get that.
Right.
So, if we have a deadline and we just are behind, Sunday's not going to be free.
Yes.
That's absolutely fine. That's not what the point is. It's purely I feel like I can do more with that in mind.
Okay.
And like you said, I feel like I would thrive better and work better by having a little bit of time off on that day, for example.
Okay.
Not to sit and do nothing, but to work on my own thing.
Yes. Well, that took up most of the podcast.
Let's make it a long one.
You want to keep going?
I think this is good.
I got shit for
Let's
days
go.
here. So that was changing work hours. Okay, so that's what we're doing. I'm excited. We've started working on our features again. Correct?
Yeah.
I mean, the very beginnings of it. So I'm editing. You're writing, right? You've been talking about it a lot. And I just wanted to give you an outlet on explaining how the script's going. And kind of, maybe a little bit of advice for anybody who's trying to start writing a script or finds themselves in the same
Jesus.
waters that you're in.
Well, I don't have any formal.
What are you doing? What have you done?
I was gonna say I don't have any like formal script writing education, so I feel like
I don't have any advice.
I'm realizing a lot as I'm writing. Basically, what I did was I wrote like the whole film in scenes in note form. None of it is connected. It's just a bunch of seemingly random scenes that in my head make up this bigger story, this bigger idea. And what I'm very much focused on doing now is writing a script where that story is front and center and the scenes highlight that. The scenes aren't their own thing. Each scene is there for a reason so that you get the story. So I'm trying to come up with a storyline.
Right.
Which sounds weird because like, isn't a script a story? No, not in my case. It's very much an idea and feelings and individual scenes that I feel like are very powerful that I'm now trying to put together into a coherent story that someone else could watch and understand.
Are the scenes determining the story, or are you now trying to write the story and have the scenes?
I haven't written any new scenes based on the story I've come up with.
Okay.
So far, it's like I'm able to, that would fit perfect.
So you have the story?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. But obviously there's things that are being changed somewhat.
Right.
Ask more questions 'cause that's easier.
Well, how did you start again? I mean, you have a blank piece of paper.
I didn't. I had like 20 pages that when I read again, I was like, I struggled to remember why I found that to be important. Like, why did I add that specific detail?
Right.
Why is that relevant?
Right.
And that just shows that it's because there's a lack of a story, because it wasn't clear why that detail was relevant in terms of the story. It was just a detail that made that scene more specific and more interesting in my mind. So now I have to kind of go through and make sure that every detail is there to enhance the story, move the plot forward,
Right.
or tell you something new about the character. It's very like clinical in a weird way at the moment.
Do you trust yourself at all that even if you forget what a detail means, do you ever trust that, like, well, I was in the right state of mind when I was writing this? I'm sure this.
I think
when
when I'm further along,
Yeah.
and actually have something that someone else could read,
Right.
yeah, I probably would trust myself a little
Okay.
bit more. But at the moment, no, because it's so disjointed.
You're still in the
Yeah, it's not even really a skeleton yet. It's just kind of random
Right.
bits lying around. Yeah.
And then you're reading a book on script writing,
Mm-hmm.
which you said some interesting things about.
Yeah, so I'm reading a book about like Hollywood style screenplays.
Yeah.
Which wasn't on purpose. I was recommended the book and didn't look into it much and just ordered it on Amazon and got it because I wanted to read something about screenwriting while I was writing. And I very quickly realized that it's actually a really interesting combination of reading something that's for Hollywood, something that's so formulated, yeah, and like, is generic the right word? Like,
there's they call it like a cookie cutter. Like
there's literally like
they show you the steps.
A step-by-step guide for what has to happen on page 5 of the script and page 10 of the script. Exactly halfway through the script, your character has to have a scene that establishes that they are someone you like. Your character has to have a scene that establishes they're not sure about what to do next. Like, so painfully obvious in a way, but at the same time, it's like, with what I've written so far, which is super abstract and very out there, it's almost making me rein things in a little bit and trying to think about my film in that kind of formula is very insightful, I'm realizing. So it's not that I'm trying to create a Hollywood script and do what it's telling me to do, but it's making me think about my own script in a really interesting way.
Right.
Which is, I think, useful.
Cool.
Yeah.
You still have your habits before you write?
I haven't really sat down to write yet.
Okay.
That's why when you said we're working on feature-length films, it's more that I've started to think about it again.
Well, I've only spent a day taking snaps. I mean, I've worked on it, but it's like I can feel the...
I mean, I've written notes in my notebook. I kind of, when I'm reading the screenwriting book, I keep, like I said, thinking about my scenes and what comes on page 10 of my script.
Right.
And how does that fit into this formula? And then it makes me think about it a certain way, and then I make notes on it. And so in that way, I've been working on it a little bit.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, that's scripts. That's updated on that.
What about your editing? Yeah.
I think it ties nicely. People will find out about that in the YouTube video that's going to come out in, like, hopefully 2 weeks.
Hopefully in 2 weeks, dude. It's next week.
Yeah. So that goes straight to YouTube.
Uh-huh.
Should we be doing more?
That's a good way of asking it. It's should we and not could we. I've thought about that a lot. Should we be doing more on YouTube? I don't know.
Because the thing is, yes, we decided that the episodes are going to come out once a month.
Mm-hmm.
But
yeah,
we could still be doing shorter things, i.e. editing challenges, i.e. tutorials. I don't fucking know. I just wonder if once a month is enough. And I just bring it up. I have no opinions on this, really. Mm-hmm. I'm actually quite happy to not be creating as much content at the moment because I just feel like, where the fuck's the time going to come from to make this stuff? But I wonder if we're missing something where we can integrate it into the work we are doing. For example, doing an editing challenge for the Music Bunker. But then, of course, a problem comes up of like, well, we don't really want to release that footage until...
I think that's the
we've made,
key.
You know,
to me, it's hard to justify spending the time on something that isn't what we're working on.
Right. But of course, I mean, I guess it's just balanced with we want to build an audience as well. That's going to help us in the long run.
Yeah.
But then maybe we just see how much one video a month can get us.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's also important. And obviously there's still plenty of time to realized that that's not working and we need to
Right.
have more if we want to keep building an audience. But it's also like
Just want to make sure we're aware.
we are also forced into having to prioritize one over the other.
I agree.
So I definitely don't think it's a negative thing. It's not an obviously negative thing to focus on our paid work and building the business over a hypothetical of building an audience through YouTube videos.
I
We
agree.
don't even know if it's necessarily going to work. Right, that's me coming from the work point of view. The other part of me is like, but YouTube is like, that could be so much more than what we're doing.
I think the paid work is definitely the priority. That's an
Well,
that's
it is.
easy.
Like whether or not we
Because we need
think
to eat.
it should be, that is
Right.
what it is at the moment. We're definitely prioritizing.
In my opinion, it has to be. But
Yeah.
the question is, well, do we have an hour here or there in the week to do a quick editing challenge? Just to keep the content kind of going. Just to keep those...
Right. Of course we could do that, but it would have to be an hour taken somewhere.
Yeah.
So it'd be an hour less of climbing, or an hour less reading, or an hour less working on our own films, or an hour
Right.
less spent with my girlfriend. Or who do you spend time with?
Me, myself, and I.
Maybe you haven't.
Okay.
But
So
no,
I
no,
think-
that wasn't an end to
It
that
sounded
point.
like an end.
No, it's just establishing that it's, yeah, there's an hour, but do we want to take it somewhere? Do we want to take it from somewhere? Is there somewhere where you feel like, I don't need that much time there. I could take some, put it there.
Yeah, I think, honestly, yeah, I probably could find an hour. But again, I think my life is a little different.
I mean, would you wanna?
Um,
I think if there's something that, you want to do or I want to do,
right.
there's definitely a way to organize it so that it does work within, this current situation we're in.
I think it's hard to say. I think my concern is more it just wasn't clear when we said, you know what, we're now going to come out with episodes once a month.
Mm-hmm.
We never really made the decision, like, okay, we're not going to post anything except for those episodes, and those are going to come out once a month.
I mean,
I'm fine as we make that.
In fact,
as soon
I
as we
think
make
it's
that
the
decision.
opposite. If you watch that episode, I think we talked about, well, what can we at least upload still so that we're uploading twice a week,
Right.
which was tutorials. And
Exactly.
editing
That's why I bring it up.
challenges and-
That it doesn't just be like a
You're right. You
We
should
don't
feel
talk
like
about it,
We
and
should
it-
cap at least.
make a decision.
Make a decision. Okay.
yeah. Otherwise, it sounds like we're failing, or
Right. No, I think there
Where-
was. I think. I think we don't do it right now.
okay.
But that we consider bringing it back if we feel like we can fit it in. But then it's not the fitting it in. It's definitely, for me at least, taking and putting it somewhere, and that means not being able to do something else. It's not squeezing it in between two things. It's taking time out of this
Okay.
and putting it there instead.
Okay.
I feel like at the moment there's enough other priorities. But that it might be interesting to do in the future.
Okay. Decision made. Look out for the YouTube video next week.
Friday, right?
Fuck me.
Yeah, this is funny. If you look at our schedule, or if you looked at our schedule 2 weeks ago when we made the decision to make one YouTube video a month, you'd see that we had all these little, I think they're pink, right? In our schedule. We color code our schedule in our calendar. Let's just say they're pink. I don't remember. But all of the YouTube video related jobs are pink, and they were nicely spread out throughout the
Right.
month. We're going to film this interesting idea here. We're going
Right.
to try and edit that on this day, and then
Right.
we're going to film next week this part. So it looked totally manageable. And slowly, as the month has gone on, all of those things have just been pushed down to the bottom of the calendar. So now the next week
yeah.
is just totally littered with little pink to-do lines saying, film this, edit this.
That's going to be crazy. We'll see what happens. We'll see what happens.
Something will happen.
Something will happen. All right, let's keep it rolling.
Do it.
All right, I just have some questions for you.
Do it.
I watched the Elon Musk interview with Joe Rogan.
That is so weird. I was just about to say, like, it's going to be like the Elon Musk.
Yeah. Well, first
thing.
I thought I would do a full profile on you. And then I was like, you know what, let's leave that.
Profile on me.
Just like, because most podcasts, or not most, but podcasts I listen to have guests on.
Okay,
I'll be your
guest.
is very
Here
much like you ask people questions about their life, how they grew up, blah, blah, blah. No, I decided not to do the full profile. I might do that one day.
Okay.
That would be like a full episode. Like, when were you born, blah, blah, blah.
Okay. That's interesting. Maybe let's do that next week.
Yeah, I just wasn't prepared. But I did a couple.
Mm-hmm.
Just specifically towards you, because I'm just,
who else is
curious.
there here?
No, I'm just curious. I'm just saying
Arlo.
they're not general, but one of the things Rogan asked Elon Musk is like, what keeps you up at night? And I was like, yeah, what keeps Mads up at night?
What keeps Mads up at night? I fall straight asleep every night.
Really?
I go to bed and I struggle so hard to read like 5-6 pages. And I just fall asleep.
I think the question is.
I get what you're asking.
Yeah. so literal.
Definitely, I think kind of became clear in this podcast already. The idea of, am I doing enough? And that is what keeps me up. Or what kind of can take over and make me a bit anxious is am I doing enough? Can I be doing more? Is what I'm doing the right thing? But specifically
More of what?
Am I making the most out of my time? Like either on a micro scale, like
Right.
could I be editing quicker, or
Right.
on a huge scale, like
Okay.
do I have the right priorities?
Right.
Like, am I making the most of my time? That is kind of something that can get me a bit worked up.
Okay.
But I think it's a good one because it makes me,
Yeah,
it
it is
forces
good.
me to think about it. And I'm like, yeah, I am. Or no, and I need to change it.
Right.
And I try to do something differently until I feel like, okay, I fixed that
Okay.
for a period now.
Okay.
Yeah. Like, because there's a lot of things that I want to do. A lot of very different things, like this business, like my relationship, like climbing
Right.
and running and reading and writing my script. Those are all things that could individually take up my entire life. But I'm like trying to, like anyone, juggle different things that they care about. And because I care so deeply about each one, I want to make sure that I'm not wasting my time doing something that shouldn't be on that list. Because that would freak me out if suddenly I realized that I've been doing this one thing for the past 5 years that's been eating up my time and I don't really care about it, and it's just a bad habit.
Right.
What the fuck am I doing? Because I could be doing more of what I actually want to do.
Right.
So I feel like that's something that definitely pops up more than other thoughts. It's like, am I making the most of my time?
Okay. Interesting. What is your earliest memory?
This is the weird one. I think everyone's heard the idea of like sometimes you can't remember something, but you think you can because you've seen photos of it and people have talked to you about it. So you feel like you've created a mental image in your head. But I think this is a real memory of being on a frozen river, in a cardboard box being pulled around the ice by either one of my parents. I don't remember who. kind of like being
Yeah.
skated around.
Yeah.
That's what I remember.
That's nice.
And for that memory to make sense, I think I've talked to my parents about it. It should have been when I was around like 2. So it's quite an early memory. Because we were still living, or we had rather just moved to the Netherlands, and in our backyard, at the very end of our yard, there was this little river that ran by that would freeze over in the winter. So it would make sense that was probably where I'd get pulled. Because they said, yeah, we used to pull you guys around in little cardboard boxes. But we only lived there for like not so long. So it had to be around that time when I was like 2.
Okay. Interesting. And then you asked me this, and I thought I'd direct it towards you. And it relates to what keeps you up at night. If you had to take a year and do something completely different, so it's not specifically one of the things you just talked about, just completely different that maybe at some point you were like, oh, that'd be interesting to do for a year, but you've never really.
Yeah, the way I asked you was if you weren't allowed to continue doing anything that you were currently pursuing,
Right.
What would you do?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a hard one. I think just off the top of my head, I would probably do something like live in a van, like do some kind of van life type thing.
Okay.
And obviously I'd have to convince Phoebe, but I think she'd be down to do something like pick a country and live in that country, but in a van. And like fix up the van myself. So like buy an old mini bus or something and strip it down and put in a bed and a kitchen and stock it up with stuff, make it solar powered, and then drive around and just travel for a year that way. I'm not quite sure how I would make money on the road. I'd have to figure that out. I was going to say I could do like videos.
Probably live quite cheaply.
But, yeah, cheaply, but I have no money saved up. So maybe I'd save up first and then do that.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Interesting.
I mean, another way to look at that question is if I wasn't a filmmaker, could I see myself having another career? Have you ever thought of that? Like, what's another job that you could see yourself doing?
A lot of different jobs I could see myself doing.
I've thought that I think I'd be interested in being a chef. I could see myself being a chef. Or like a biologist. Or something weird like that, because that stuff really fascinates me. Like a researcher, someone who'd like do scientific research for something important and like gather data and come up with and discover how something that we don't currently know works. That'd be interesting. Maybe I'd start that.
All right. That's a good way to cap it off. And we will see you next week on Burning Boat Business.